What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 21 of the Boochcast reviews Darkside of the Ring. And of course, once again, I am joined by the AEW correspondent, singer-songwriter, Mr. Desmond Dagenhart.
Yeah, it feels like we were just doing the episode 18 like a couple hours ago.
Yeah, it does feel that way, surprisingly. And
well, it took a couple hours to do those, so now we're on track. So
takes forever, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with my Part 1 co-host and other AEW correspondent, Mr. Elvis Dolinski is here.
Round of applause.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, very well done.
There we go. Woo.
And
LVD.
Desmond apparently not wanting to do the applause. But, ladies and gentlemen, our episode for this week was entitled Becoming Warrior. So we're here, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the life and the career of one of the biggest names in professional wrestling, the Ultimate Warrior.
I'm not gonna lie, I knew very little about Ultimate Warrior before watching this. I've seen a few matches here or there, from watching old stuff, but I was born in '91. At that point,
yeah, he was kind of winding down at that point.
Yeah, I was a big fan. I watched it in the heydays, and I mean, when you first heard his fucking music, dun 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 dun, dun like him running out with the tassels and the war paint and his fucking like crazy fucking promos, I loved it. Hulk Hogan.
Ultimate Warrior to me was definitely one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie.
He was entertaining.
He was and the thing is, he had, and a lot of times, and you hear this a lot in the episode when people talk about his promos. They said that he was insane, batshit crazy. You had no idea what he was talking about. But here's the thing. That was 90% of the roster back then. They would just say some of the most outlandish shit. Yeah, even Randy Savage. Like, he would just come out and be like, one time he was saying all this random shit, and Mean Gene's like, Randy, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm talking about the beat goes on. Yeah, and the beat goes on, and the beat goes on. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But he made it work. He'd come out with like a little creamer and be like, I'm the cream of the crop. And he would just play off that thing like he's improving. And I think Eric Bischoff said it great. He said if you took a bolt of lightning and somehow morphed that into a living cartoon character, that was the Ultimate Warrior.
I'd say in a nutshell for sure, but I mean, his aesthetic was pretty much running down, having that crazy. It translated well because he was just so full of energy. It translated from the screen and it just kind of popped out of nowhere. It's like you watch, it's like, oh my god, this guy's running. He's got cool face paint in a trunks match, and I mean, it was something new because everything was so over the top. And for me, even though it was a cartoon character, to me, I was like, oh my god, this guy's really crazy. This guy's insane.
And like they said, nobody went from the bottom to the pinnacle faster than the Ultimate Warrior. Literally, he had one of the fastest rises in wrestling history.
And Vince McMahon never learned from his mistakes.
No, he did, but he was part of the bodybuilding thing here in Georgia, Mr. Georgia at one point.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon was really huge into that. I mean, he was really big into it.
And Vince McMahon's been overcompensating for something for a long time.
Well, the thing is,
grapefruits.
The genetic jackhammer. The thing is that back then people loved that. It wasn't just that Vince was into that. The average wrestling fan was into that because they loved the people who were larger than life. People that you saw them and they didn't look human, they didn't act human, and sometimes you were like, I want to be like that guy.
The fans loved it because they didn't have any choice. They didn't have options for other wrestlers back then. It wasn't until the guys like Shawn Michaels and you had smaller guys come in.
A lot of times in this documentary, what was interesting was told from the perspective of a lot of different people. Obviously, people who aren't affiliated with WWE because WWE doesn't get involved in Darkside of the Ring. But they had their own biography of the Ultimate Warrior that kind of came out that same day or that same week. And I realized something. If you watched both of them, you got a neutral perspective on the Ultimate Warrior. Because you got some people over here saying that he loved the business, people saying he hated the business. Then you got the people here that... Because fans went on a roller coaster ride with the Ultimate Warrior. Because at one minute they loved him, then they hated him, then they loved him, then they hated him again. Because when they came out with that self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, every wrestling fan on the planet wanted to spit in Vince's face.
Yep.
Like, how dare you destroy the Ultimate Warrior and the legacy that he had and ignore what he brought to the business and all this other shit. They gave him crap for it, but then they come out with Darkside of the Ring. Not only are they saying the same shit, but fans now endorse it. Like, they literally went on a roller coaster of love him, hate him, love him, hate him.
Well, it's because when they watched the self-destruction, they're sitting there thinking, oh, this is just Vince getting back at a guy who he had problems with. They didn't see it as, hey, this guy really wasn't good to work with. They saw, hey, Vince didn't like the guy that we loved watching. With Darkside of the Ring, you end up getting a whole lot of different perspectives, a whole lot of different people who knew him that you wouldn't have gotten from a regular WWE documentary.
Yeah. And a lot of things, and I learned things about the Ultimate Warrior and the Dark Side that I didn't even know before. Like, for example, like I saw, like, obviously, if you're a fan, if you watch modern wrestling and everything else, you know the Ultimate Warrior when he died, he was married to Dana. Mm-hmm. And Dana Warrior's been very active in WWE. They have a Warrior Award that they give out every year for, like, the Hall of Fame and stuff. But I didn't know he had a first wife before all this. And she's in here. Her name is Sherry Tyree, and they were married from 1982 to 1991. And fans actually took pictures of them and gave it to them. And, you know, his wife still has the pictures from years ago. And she has the picture of when he won Mr. Georgia that you were talking about before. Mm-hmm. So he had a whole nother relationship before he ultimately met Dana. Which, again, that surprised me.
And much like Brian Pillman, as we talked about in the past,
he was not a very faithful husband.
And I'm going to be honest, part of me laughed my ass off when I found that out for a variety of reasons. First of all, if you've seen any of the shoot interviews that Warrior was putting out like before he died, because he was really active on social media, bashing everybody, especially the guys who pretty much made him a fucking star. Mm-hmm. He would always give shit about this guy not being faithful to his wife, or this guy being an absolute piece of shit. You're a piece of work. You're a failure. All this other stuff. And it's like, dude, not only did you cheat on your wife, you got caught in the dumbest way possible. You were dumb enough to answer your hotel room phone with a girl in the room and didn't even have the common sense to go, shh. Like, tell the girl, hey, shut up, I'm about to answer the phone. Or wait till the bitch is out of the room.
Or worse than that, he left his little black book in view for his wife.
Who does that?
And here's the thing is, it wasn't even just names and phone numbers. No, it was names, phone numbers, locations, and when you were going to be in town.
Exactly.
Like, holy fuck, dude. I have never seen someone so organized.
You talk about hoes in different area codes.
Barney Stinson wasn't that organized.
Fuck. I mean, and I'm just sitting here going, dude, how do you fuck that up so badly? Like, how do you screw that up? And it was going back to something that we talked about in the Brian Pillman video, which was back then, if you were a babyface, you fucked the rats. Which, for those of you who don't know, that's an insider term. Rats is another term for, like, groupies. Like, as a musician does, they use the term groupies when girls come.
And insurance adjusters, obviously, we have our groupies too. So
yeah, and comedians, we got our share of those. I think in Lucifer they called them like chuckle bunnies or something. I'm like, no comedians ever fucking said that. I don't know where they put that. I don't know where the fuck they got that logic from. But anyway,
maybe it's just a Los Angeles term.
It's got to be, because nobody else has ever said that. And the thing is, that was why they never brought their wives on the road or anything, because apparently if you were a babyface, you had to fuck the rats. Like, it was, like, mandatory. Because if you didn't, then the girls would get turned off and not want to come to the shows. So you did it to keep them coming back and fill the houses and stuff.
The things I do to sell tickets.
Exactly. It's that kind of crazy lifestyle.
Things I do for my company.
That's really good. That's good shit, pal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Randy Savage did that because his wife came with him on the road, so Randy didn't have that luxury.
Maybe. Plus, we don't know what they liked in the bedroom.
I don't know. If they were into three-ways, that's fine. That's fine, but then that's not cheating if the wife's agreeing to it. That's not cheating.
I'm with you.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about infidelities here.
Cheating implies dishonesty.
Exactly. If it's a three-way, that means she was in on it and she liked that kind of shit, which is fine. I'm not judging.
Or maybe she just liked to watch.
Maybe. There are crazy people like that. But anyway, and what's funny was that, we're talking about all this infidelity stuff. Sherry actually says on their first date, they literally sat on his couch and just talked for hours.
Bullshit.
That's got to be bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I can understand sitting in a restaurant talking for hours, maybe a bar. I believe that story. Sitting on your couch in your house? No.
I mean, I've done it.
You seriously?
Legitimately, yeah.
Like just sat on your couch in your house,
Laid there, head on shoulder, arm around hers. Yeah, 100%.
talked, nothing happened.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
Damn.
You think the Warriors gonna sit there and take that?
Huh?
The little Warriors up. You must
Look, I'm not saying my little thing down there wasn't joining it. It would have been like, motherfucker, hello, I'm here. He was there.
Do you want to feel the power of the Warrior?
So the temptation was there, but you overcame it. And what you're sort of saying.
I knew if I made a move, it wasn't gonna happen.
It's just really funny. Like Warrior had like the war paint on his dick. You know what I'm saying?
Oh. We're blasting off to parts unknown. The little warrior's going places he should never have been.
All over my mouth.
No. And then here's the crazy part is before he even got into the business, he was studying to be a chiropractor. And it was inspired by changing his body to go to school and study it. Like he wanted to be they said he wanted to be a doctor of chiropractic. Which Des laughed when he saw that because he has really interesting. Des, I'll let you say this one.
You don't get a doctorate to be a chiropractor. You get stupid little certifications. You don't get any kind of real medical training.
Yeah, but technically you can be adopted for pretty much anything.
Well, no, you
PhD,
can't.
though.
You have to get a PhD in that thing, and you can't get a PhD in chiropractic.
You get the different techniques and different things that relieve stress or ankles or bones, whatever. You can do. Don't get me wrong, chiropractic does a lot of great things on it, but like assigning medicine is probably not one of them.
But then shortly after he gets married, he puts the chiropractic career on hold. He goes to learn He goes to study bodybuilding in Los Angeles, and then he meets the man we know as Sting, and the two of them decide to have a future in professional wrestling, and they sent out promotional packages.
The Running Renegades, yeah?
Yeah, they were the Freedom Fighters.
The Freedom Fighters.
That was their first name.
Okay.
And they went to Memphis to work for Jerry Jarrett, which was a big deal. Like Jerry Jarrett's one of the all-time like biggest promoters in the world. Like is a master booker. So Jerry Jarrett calls you. That means they got something for you. And they go there to take a chance at this new and unknown tag team, and they call themselves the Freedom Fighters. And Jim Cornette, who goes on record as despising the Ultimate Warrior, I think with the exception of Kenny Omega, I don't think there's anybody else he hates more. And
You mean the world's greatest wrestler? Go ahead.
yeah, he said their matches were rotten, and you could tell they had physical charisma, but Memphis didn't want to take the time to train them, so they got sent to Mid-South. And that's when they started painting their faces for the first time, and they renamed themselves the Blade Runners.
Oh, Blade Runners.
And that's who they were most known as. They were the Blade Runners. And then Jim Ross met them in UWF when he was a broadcaster there, and he said he had never seen a wrestler with less ability than the Ultimate Warrior. And Jim Ross, says he's the voice of It was funny because he says, "I'm Jim Ross. I'm the voice of AEW," but underneath his name they put former WWE executive. But that was kind of weird. Like,
he's not going to talk about what he used to be. He's going to talk about what the motherfucker he is.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, like, you would think somebody in the back would have caught that.
Well, they did that for a reason. They wanted to. It's like he talks about what he is right now. They wanted to reference how he knew the Warrior. He knew him from WWE.
Okay. Because I'm just saying, that was kind of like a kick in... It looked like a kick in the nuts to AEW a little bit. Like,
No, he's just saying, like, he works there now, but, like, back then, he was an executive for when he was there, and he was.
And they said Hellwig was very narcissistic. He had a great body and a great smile and wonderful teeth. What more could a promoter want? I don't know, maybe, could you wrestle?
Hey, Vinny, can you repeat that again?
He said he had a great body, great smile, wonderful teeth. What more could a promoter want? I don't know. Maybe could you wrestle?
Exactly. That last little bit there.
The wrestlers like Sting more because he was coachable and Warrior wasn't. His wife started noticing his selfishness come out more as he got deeper into the business. They were two completely different people, completely different idea of what they really wanted to do. Sting was all in with the tag team, but Warrior wanted to go off and do something on his own, and he felt his size would get him more attention. Critical physique undeniable. He parts ways with Sting and eventually goes to work for World Class Championship Wrestling. Big deal, big show in Texas. You know, the Von Erichs were a big name there. Gorgeous Gino was a big name over there. So this was a very big company. They brought Jim in, and that's when he got the name the Dingo Warrior.
He fights dingoes.
A great name if he was fucking Australian.
And they got the idea like of a wild dog, and they wanted to be a warrior because he was a heel. And back then, like, that was like a heel kind of name to have. And the tassels and face paint were cheap because it was all they could afford at the time. And to this day, nobody knows what a Dingo Warrior is. So if you know what one is, please let us know, because we're still trying to figure that out.
Let the whole
D&D players are like, I know.
Yeah.
That's like a knoll. No, that's a fucking hyena.
For his first 15, 20 matches, he was slaughtering guys in squash matches. He was like basically smashing people over because that's what you do when you first got somebody there.
Goldberg.
Exactly, because when you first start bringing people in, you have them smashing over people to establish dominance and doing all that. So that way, when it comes time for the high-profile match, you want to be like, oh crap, is he going to run over this guy? Is it going to be a fight, or is he going to lose? What's going to happen? So that back then, that's how you established big, strong, muscular people. And it also worked because that way they weren't getting credible wins over big stars yet. You know, so you bring in a bunch of job guys and just let them get destroyed, and then that builds the guy up. And then when it's time for them to fight the credible names, you can make money with them because you've established who they are, what their finish is, and why I should care about this person. So it gives them something to work with. And that's a very key thing to have. And the more the fans cheer, the bigger Warrior's ego gets.
As natural, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And the bigger his ego got, the harder it was to work with him in the ring. And that history followed him everywhere. Because one of the things that they talk about the most in here, especially when he went to WWE, was, and Jake the Snake is very big on this, was that the unwritten rule in wrestling, and we talked about this many, many times in previous episodes of Darkside of the Ring, is taking care of your opponent in the ring. And Warrior just throws that out the window.
And we don't mean it like the Mafia, take care of him.
Yeah, it's like, you know, wrestling ain't ballet, accidents are going to happen, but you don't go out of your way to hurt the person in the ring.
You're doing everything you can to protect them.
Yes. And again, accidents happen, but that's the goal is to take care of who you got in the ring with. That's why, like, you bring somebody off the mat, make sure you bring them down safely, but make it look good. You know, it's the key thing.
You're not trying to actually hurt them. You're trying to make it to where they can sell that they're hurt.
Yes, and the only time you actually hurt them is if they don't sell. That's the exception to that rule. If you don't sell, you're getting your ass whooped. Because
you got to drop them down like Norman Smiley, you know.
Exactly, make them
like
sell.
Like a blanket, boom.
Now his attitude was, you know, he got the best body. He should beat everyone, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time learning this crap because I don't care about it. I just want to be a TV star. The only place a wrestler with that kind of attitude can have that kind of success is in the WWE. And that was the reason why he didn't get along with anybody in that locker room.
Yeah, I will say one thing about Goldberg. He definitely had the attitude of, all right, we're going to do this way. He had some stuff like, he didn't want nobody to dodge a spear right off the bat, but he would go up and say, thank you for making me look good after the match.
Yeah.
He had that respect for other people.
Exactly. And that was always something big. He was always grateful to everybody that put him over and knew what he was doing and knew what they were doing. So, you know, Warrior just never did that. You know, so people come up to him going, "Hey, man, you hurt me in the ring." He'd be like, "Eh," like he legit did not care. Mm-hmm. And that is just one of the most despicable things in the ring.
He tried playing shit with Andre, and Andre slowed as like he humbled his ass.
Oh, I remember the Bobby Heenan story.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to tell it? Should I?
You tell way better.
Okay, so there was a moment where Ultimate Warrior was facing Andre. This was in the tail end of his career. This is after WrestleMania 3 and all that, when Andre was putting more people over. And a spot that Andre loved to do in the match is when he would get clotheslined, he would fall backwards and get tied up in the ropes.
It was like his favorite spot, pretty much.
And because it was a good way for him to, you know, have somebody beat up on him and allow him to sell. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise he wouldn't do that. And again, Andre is one of those guys, because of his size and his strength, nothing happened in the ring unless he wanted it to. because
Hogan would have never power slammed him
if he didn't want it. The only reason it happened is because at the end of the match, Andre looked at him and said, "Slum," and that's why he slammed him. And then as he hit the ground, he looked up at him and said, "Leg drop." He dropped the leg drop, and Andre didn't kick out. That's the only reason that happened. Nothing happened unless he wanted it to. Well, he basically every time Warrior would bounce off the rope, run the ropes, and do the clothesline, he was moving too fast and not letting the spot happen. Mm-hmm. So he hits him, and he hit him like really hard. Mm-hmm. And Andre was like, he got mad. Later on, they're going for the spot again, another show. He does it again, and Andre just goes, like he's getting mad. Third time, he does it the third time. Now he's even more pissed. Fourth time, Warrior comes back. Andre just goes like this. Stuck his fist out. His face went right into his fist. He didn't punch him. He runs into the fist. And then fucked up his nose and everything. The next night, they're wrestling again. Ultimate Warrior bounced off the ropes and goes, ding, 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 clothesline. And then after the match, he goes over to Heenan and goes, "He'll learn." That's all he had to say. "He'll learn." That's what he had to do to humble his ass.
Like, you gotta realize you might be bigger than most of these motherfuckers.
You ain't bigger than me.
And speaking of Bobby Heenan, we were talking before about Pillman when he did that thing where he just kind of like tapped his neck to piss him off. Warrior literally lifted him up off the ground, just slammed him. No protection, no nothing, just two-handed dropped him like damn near broke his neck.
Full Beal slam.
Yeah, like damn near broke his neck. No way for him to tuck his chin or nothing. So Warrior was just hurting people left and right. Now Vince saw that he wasn't a great wrestler, but he also saw the intensity the character had, and he can get the crowd's attention, so they started adding extra things to his persona, like the shaking of the ropes, the running down to the ring, just everything, building up that anticipation for what he did. In a lot of ways, because of how his gimmick was portrayed, he could do the little things he knew how to do and still get over. And sometimes that's the thing that people don't understand. The bigger your charisma is, the less you really have to do physically. It brings that level to it. Back then, he would psych the crowd up, and they wanted to be mysterious, which is why they gave him the parts unknown. They wanted just to be like, what the fuck is he talking about? They didn't want you to figure out who he was. They wanted the mystery, the mystique, to kind of make you think this guy was different. Because, again, that's what the gimmicks were back then, was they wanted somebody to be larger than life and not human, not like the rest of us. That's what they wanted. Somebody to be like, holy shit, what the fuck is that guy? I don't want to piss him off. And they got him over with all the explosive stuff by basically doing what they do with every wrestler. Hiding the weaknesses and exposing the strengths. That's what you do. You find the weakness that the wrestler has and try to shelter it as much as possible, and the strength. That's why they tell you, like, don't go out there and do shit you don't know how to do. That's the number one rule.
If all you know is hardcore wrestling and brawling, you don't go out with Chris Benoit and technical wrestling.
You don't. You just don't. And the thing, that's why I say, like, if you don't have to do something, don't do it. There's no reason for it. Why? So you can impress a guy on the internet? Fucking be your character, because that's what's making money, that's what's getting the crowd over, and that's what's going to get you to the top of the mountain. So by the time we get to 1990, Warrior is the biggest star in the company other than Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. And he's the only, and so now they're realizing they want to use WrestleMania 6 to have this ultimate battle between them. And of course they use the Royal Rumble to tell the story a little bit. They would have them like help each other out because they're both baby faces, but still have that stare down. And it got to the point where Vince is deciding, okay, Hogan's getting tired and broken down and the Hulkamania thing. He felt Hulkamania had run its course and it was time to take a break from it. And he wanted to push the Ultimate Warrior and give him the top spot now. And so now you got this, even though there's a little bit of respect between the two, and they got some type of, I want to say friendship, but like it's not like a deep friendship, but they kind of respect each other a little bit. There's still that professional envy and jealousy among the two of them. And if anybody has a problem with that, my answer is this. How could you not have that? Like, you're basically the top guy in the company, and Vince is telling you, oh, by the way, this guy right here, I want him to replace you. No one's going to take that lying down. Nobody.
Listen, you're old. You're older than me.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that shit.
You're old, you're in the ring.
And Warrior's like sitting here going, he's got all the pressure on him because now he has to take that mountain. You are facing the biggest star in wrestling, the biggest icon they got, in a main event, on the main event of the biggest stage of them all, and you're about to beat him clean in the middle of the ring, something nobody else has done.
Yes, I'm not a fan of Hogan, but damn!
Yeah, I'm saying that is
Fuck Hogan.
as big as you can get. Oh yeah, I know. But it's as big as you can get. And they go to this pinnacle match, and it's title for title on top of that. One man's about to walk out the WWE and Intercontinental Champion in one night.
Mm-hmm.
And these two have this, they get in the ring, they have the match, it goes over very well, and then there's that moment where Hogan, does the big foot, he's going to drop the leg, everyone thinks it's over. Warrior dodges the leg drop, splashes, you got the 1, 2, 3, Hogan kicks out at like 3 1/4. So it's like he got the clean win, and boom, Warrior wins this match and gets the top title. And then Hogan gets in the ring and handed him the belt. And Warrior goes in for the hug, which was Warrior. That wasn't even planned. Warrior was just so happy he leaned in for it. So Hogan comes like, oh, okay, I kind of took it. And then raised his hand and was endorsing the Warrior. And that was them passing the torch. The only difference is, this was a different passing the torch than what you normally see in matches. Like, this isn't a guy that's like ready to retire, on his way out the door, and is like, okay, I trust you to carry this spot.
It was the first face versus face because Vince was kind of like skeptical, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. We had like, who are they going to side for? Because everybody loves Hogan, everybody loves Ultimate Warrior in his mind. So he's like, man, I wonder what's going to happen. And, the fans kind of showed more appreciation for the Warrior, and that's true.
It was. And I'll be honest, as big of a Hogan fan as I was on Team Warrior. I love the Ultimate Warrior. I didn't hate Hogan, but Warrior was like the guy. And the problem is that
I was like, Mommy, you see that guy in the yellow trunks? And she's like, yes, my little Elvis, what's going on? I'm like,
I take it you didn't buy the Wrestling Buddies.
she sat there and my mom whooped my monkey ass. And she's like, why did you flick that man up? Because like he likes to say his prayers. I'm like,
yes, I'm sure as a kid you hated Hogan then too.
always.
In all fairness, as a kid, I was kind of not watching Hogan.
But didn't you say you had that Hogan buddy?
I had a Hogan buddy, but it was gotten for me for Christmas. I knew who he was, but when I really started watching wrestling, it was already Undertaker and Triple H and The Rock and Stone Cold.
Okay.
Hogan was on his way out.
Yeah.
I mean, he came back, but it was one of those, he was on his way out.
Yeah. And so, of course, after Warrior wins the title from Hogan, he becomes erratic. He starts staying on the road, not coming home as often. His wife's doing wellness checks, which, as someone who had to do a wellness check once before, it is not fun to do at all.
It sounds pretty easy. You just say, how you doing? Oh, I'm here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Peace.
But I'm just saying, like, until you know that person's there, you're having a goddamn anxiety attack. Until you get that phone call or that knock on the door and the person answers and you're just like, okay, thank God. Trust me, it's not fun to do. Anyway, we talk about the ending of the marriage because the girl in the hotel room. Soon after that, it gets to the point where Warrior is not drawing the money they thought he was going to draw.
Because he couldn't wrestle.
Yeah, and variety of things.
What have thought?
Yeah. In fact, Hogan even said in an interview that it got to the point where like there were two different towns. The towns that Hogan was on, the towns where Warrior was on, because they didn't put him in the same place. And everybody checked to make sure they were on Hogan's town. Because if you were working Hogan's town, you were going to make big money. So you made more money on Hogan's town than you did on Warrior's town, because even without the belt, Hogan was still drawing money.
Of course.
You know,
a big name with good promos will draw money.
Soon after this, he loses the WWE title to Sergeant Slaughter at the 1991 Royal Rumble. He felt betrayed by Vince McMahon. The feelings began to deteriorate. And at first, Vince wanted to give Jake Roberts a run with the belt. And, but he tells Jake he has to get the okay from Warrior. And Jake's like, the fuck?
You his boss. Hello.
He's like, it's just what things got to be done. So Jake goes to Warrior's private dressing room because that was another big difference too. Was Warrior had his own dressing room and locked it himself, and some people say, well, Hogan had his own dressing room, yeah, but he would still go dress with the boys and still hang out with them. He would sit in his own dressing room when he had to work shit out for the match, but he interacted with the boys as well. Warrior never did that. And so Jake Roberts goes in there, and Warrior tells him, I don't care about you, your family, or your problems. You better not miss a show, otherwise you're fucking with my money, and that's it. And tells him to leave. And Jake is fucking mad, but he's swallowing his pride to have the match, because he knows when him and the Warrior go at it, he's going to be making big money. And a lot of times, when wrestlers would get, like, the world title shot, for some of them, yeah, they would want to be the champion, but they care more about the fact that because they were working with the champion, they were going to make the big main event money payoff.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to it as well. Like there are a lot of Hall of Famers that never got that big title. But they would have made more money if they got that big title, but you don't have to get that big title to make a lot of money. And Jake the Snake, he needed that money at that point. And he's like, look, this is the point where they're finally giving me the push that I feel like I deserve. They're going to give me that top spot. I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah. But then, just when Jake is about to get that big money-making match, SummerSlam 91 shows up.
Oh, wow.
And the moment that was on the Self-Destruction DVD that everybody argued whether it was true or false or whatever, turns out it was the truth. Who knew? The Ultimate Warrior decides to hold up Vince for money to get the same type of deal as Hulk Hogan, and if his demands aren't met, he's not showing up to Madison Square fucking Garden to wrestle. And keep in mind, he's in a tag team main event with Hogan against Slaughter, Sheik, and the special referee is Jesse Ventura. This is a big money-making main event, and he's going to no-show it if he's not paid.
Basically, he's saying, look, I'll drop the title if you grant me all the money I fucking need for until the end of my fucking career.
He just wanted to be on the same level as Hogan, and he wasn't. I mean, he just felt like, well, I'm definitely, getting a better pop. I'm doing all these different things, so he wanted to be on the same par. He felt like he deserved it, but even though he was there for a very small time, right. I'm pretty sure like Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, and all them are like, who the fuck is this motherfucker?
I'm just saying, it's like, Bray Wyatt might out-wrestle Hogan one hand tied behind his back. Hogan would out-wrestle Warrior with one hand tied behind his back.
Like, I know Barry Horowitz is like, God damn, really?
This is
like,
ridiculous.
I lose every fucking week, but this motherfucker?
Hogan would just about Orange Cassidy that motherfucker. Alright.
But, so Vince is in a tough spot, but Vince's big thing is, I have to present what I have advertised. So he has to get the match in the ring. So he says, alright, I'll give you everything you want. And this is the one time I think a promoter fucked over one of the boys and the boys actually clapped. Which is rare. So Vince pretends to honor the demands. Jake is staying next to Vince at the gorilla position. Warrior has the spot where he's running through the curtain, chasing off Bobby Heenan. He gets through the curtain, and Vince stops him and says, by the way, you're fired. Get the fuck out of my building. And then he turns to Jake and says, you have the worst luck of any human being I ever met. Because now Jake is pissed because he had to eat shit and like the taste of it from the Ultimate Warrior in that locker room, and now he's not getting the main event, the big push, and the big money.
He's still gonna get that main event push even without the Warrior. But in my own opinion, I think they should have worked something out. Our man won it because he bought it from Andre, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like they could have worked Jake in there, but I don't know. I don't think it was a long-term plan.
Yeah. And they said his biggest downfall was seeing anybody else's point of view but his own. And over the next 18 months, he was in court with Vince in the WWE and just...
Over the legal name.
Over the name, yeah. And then, of course...
he legally changed his name to Warrior.
Oh, he did,
that's
totally.
so fucking weird. Like, you're Ultimate Warrior. Well, you're not really Ultimate anymore. So what are you? Warrior.
And then, of course, he's basically You were, and then like WWE writes Ultimate Warrior letters saying stuff like you were a legend in your own mind and shit.
Vince basically said, dude, you sat here and told me that you weren't gonna fucking show up and break contract, and you expect me to?
Yeah, and then by 1996, you know, Hogan and everybody's in WCW, so now Vince is out of stars, so he decides to bring back and make amends with the Ultimate Warrior. And he talked about his concepts that were crazy. He used the word distrucity and stuff, and to describe his persona. He wanted to be a motivational speaker and sell comic books. And JR was like, this is a waste of fucking time.
Yeah, man, I remember that his comeback, and like I was just like, it was so out of place too. So when they talked about it, I was like, yeah, that's definitely out of place, because like you had all these people who, like Shawn Michaels, like, you know, with DX and a Stone Cold, all these people. So you have all these different things going on, like realistic, like kind of like almost like reality kind of thing, whatever, extreme they want to use. And then Warrior comes back, I'm like, oh man, it's like a time portal. It was cool to see him for like the first couple weeks. And I remember the last time he was on there, he was wearing a fucking hat with some kind of promotion on it. I forgot what it was. It was fucking weird. So you imagine, like, Warrior, he's got this wild fucking hair. So when he runs through, it's like, dun 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 dun. And like, his hair's fucking running too. Dun 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 dun. And all of a sudden, you see him with the fucking hat on. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why? Why are you wearing a hat that says IBM or Apple or I don't know what the fuck he was selling? He got sponsored to wear that hat on national TV, and he did it. And Vince is like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Like, that's not my sponsor. I'm not getting paid for this.
Hey, look, there's a reason that now it's in their contract. They got very limited stuff. Like, the only person that was able to wear a sponsored thing was like Brock Lesnar, because he had his fucking his trunks with the sponsors on them.
The Jimmy Johns. That's because they sponsored him when he was in UFC, so
he still had a
they got to
contract
deal with that. In some rare case, they allowed it. Like, for example, Macho Man had a Slim Jim. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason Eric Bischoff brought in Randy Savage was for the Slim Jim endorsement. He said the Slim Jim, they made the amount of money they got from Slim Jim was enough to pay Randy's contract. So it cost WCW nothing. They took the money from the Slim Jim sponsorship and paid Randy Savage.
Nice.
So it was like genius business.
And so it's like Slim. It's always like, so what you're saying is, we pay you, we pay him, you pay him what we paid you. Yes. Okay.
Either way, step into a Slim Jim. They were getting their endorsement. And then, yeah. So Vince takes the gamble, bringing back the Ultimate Warrior, and they come to WrestleMania 12. He faces Triple H. He squashed and embarrassed him. And I just got to say, does anybody really feel sorry for Triple H?
I did not.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Exactly. Like, I remember Triple H, when they did something with the Ultimate Warrior, Triple H actually said in an interview on that DVD, he was the most unprofessional guy I ever stepped foot in the ring with. And I'm like, you realize half the roster has said that about you. Dude, pot in the fucking kettle.
Like, nowadays is a whole different story, but back then, when he was part of the clique, and come on.
He goes up there, he looks at Warrior when he clicks like the pedigree and he gets back up, he's like, what is happening? I like it. I like it a lot. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use it for my own good. Come on, China.
I'm like, it's the goddamn Warrior. What did you think was gonna happen? He gives him the press slam, they go home, it's a quick match. And then Warrior eventually, they realize they're not getting the return on the investment. The comic books, nothing's selling. This is all stupid. And they get rid of him again. So he opens up...
Those comic books are probably worth a lot of fucking money right now.
Oh, now they're definitely... Oh, yeah. You're always worth more when you're dead. That's the craziest part. But... Yeah. But so anyway, Warrior eventually... They don't talk about this in Darkside of the Ring. But later on, he jumps ship and goes to WCW.
Oh, my goodness. That was horrible.
That was horrible. He comes...
One Warrior Nation. Oh, boy.
Which is the NWO backwards. And they bring in, like, they had, like, the Disciple that was with Hogan, but then he goes and works with the Warrior. And who, by the way, if you don't know, the Disciple was Brutus Beefcake, just so y'all know.
Hogan's boyfriend.
Yeah, but, so they're doing all this stuff, and they're trying to, like, recreate the magic with Hogan and Warrior again, and bring in the NWO, and it didn't work. It didn't work.
It was so bad, but Hogan needed to get his win.
Yeah,
Hogan needed that win.
That's what they say.
No, that's what they say. You're right.
That is. People have said that they've rumored that was the reason.
You know they heard it
Bischoff said who?
Hogan.
I heard it from Warrior. That was the reason. I heard. Well, Bischoff said he was literally trying to see if they could recreate the magic of the Warrior in WCW because it was a different fan base, a lot of other things. The same reason they brought a lot of guys over. They were trying to recreate a lot of moments and bring in people that could draw money for them. And with Warrior, it didn't pan out.
Which is really crazy because they did it like with Hogan, they did it in such the opposite way. Like with Warrior, they wanted him to be the same guy. They wanted him to rework it to where it works with their storylines, but he was still the Ultimate Warrior. With Hogan, he came in the exact opposite person.
Well, no, when he first came in, it was red and yellow, but the red and yellow wasn't getting over because of the whole steroid thing, which we'll get to that in a way later episode. But Hogan said, like, at first, everybody was like, Hulkamania running wild, and then there'd be signs that would say, did you take your shot today? And, like, just stuff like that. So it got to a point where the red and yellow wasn't working, so then they turned him into Hollywood and the NWO, and Hogan got a whole new resurgence. Warrior's thing,
phenomenal as a heel.
Yes,
which is amazing because most people who were that big of a face don't do well as a heel.
Yeah,
very few people pull that off.
Yeah. So then, of course, eventually, they talk about him making peace with his first wife, and eventually they both move on. He apologizes, wish he was a better person. They stayed friends for a period of time, but then eventually realized since they were in new relationships, it was best not to just hang out anymore. But they made peace. So at least that happened. So then after WCW ends up not working out, pretty much done with the business. And then he spends the next decade, and here's where the crazy shit happens. He becomes a conservative motivational speaker.
He becomes a racist, sexist,
Bigot.
homophobe who rants in front of crowds.
And because apparently his new wife Dana made him realize he had a conservative point of view.
He did not have a conservative point of view. He had a racist, sexist, homophobe point of view. There's a difference, people. I can't stress this enough. There are plenty of great conservatives out there.
Oh, yeah.
He was not one of them.
I mean, and just the shit he was saying alone was
We don't
crazy.
even talk about. You can just look up like Warrior rants about, I don't know, gays, whatever, and it's like, wow.
Like, it got hectic.
But like, there was like a room full of people. I'm like, holy shit! Like, he's like
He
zero
just seems
fucks.
like he seems like the kind of guy who would go to court and argue that argue against something because he was a fucking fag and not realize that the judge was a flaming
Yeah. Like he was saying things like, like this is an exact quote, and it was in the documentary. I read this because it was like, it says, and I quote, "Queering doesn't make the world work. Marrying will bring it one step closer to its end." And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, and it was weird because I think he was trying to talk about it from like a reproduction standpoint, which I'm like, okay, I can see where you're going with this, but very poor choice of words. Like, this is not fucking working, dude. Like, there's a difference between talking biology and just being fucking sick in the head. And this dude was clearly sick in the head. Like, you're looking at all the stuff he's saying.
He's just a hateful bastard.
Yeah. He called himself a human racist. Literally. Like, there was like a... This is from the freaking website. I'm going to say, this is direct quotes from the website.
I'll be right back.
Okay. I was going to say, these were... Should we wait for them to come back?
No, go ahead.
Okay. These were direct quotes from the website. If you pause Darkside of the Ring, you gotta pause it and you gotta look to read it because it moves really fast. It says, here's what he said. He said, "I'm sick of it, and if you have any decency left in you, you should be too. Black, white, red, green, purple doesn't matter to me. I am a human racist and I am concerned about the human race. My kids, your kids, our kids have to live in this world. Well, they have to spend as much time or even more defending themselves against it too, these kids." Like at one point, and he said, "These kids, these obviously black, all caps, skinned kids are behaving like animals, savages, less than human, like Reese's monkeys." It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? This is the sick shit he would say, and I'm like, this is the Ultimate Warrior?
And that's a motivational speaker?
What the fuck?
Like, how the fuck do you motivate? It's like, yeah, man, I don't know.
And he said, "If it were white people, I'd say the same damn thing. I'm sick and tired of having words that accurately mean certain things taken away from me." Like, he was trying to go after cancel culture before there was one. And I'm like, dude, this ain't you going after cancel culture. This is you being fucked in the head.
And she being an asshole.
Exactly. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck talks like that?
Where does?
Apparently. Like, this dude is like, it was like the sickest
Let's
shit in
just
the
say,
world.
like, he does not know how to read a room, like, at all.
I was like,
and
yeah.
And everybody's on the same wavelength, but he's, like, on a whole zenith of a different planet. It's like, wow. It's crazy.
It was sick, man. Like, and then, of course, like I said before, he trashed everybody in the business.
At least he didn't have, like, a diss album towards Hogan.
Yeah. He had a whole 50-minute fucking video, like, Karma Collects. Remember that?
That was awesome.
Just going off. And again, like, talking all these horrible things about Hogan's like, you know, you have the blueprint on how to fuck up a life. And I'm looking at Darkside of the Ring going, so do you, motherfucker. He just shits on everybody and goes on these angry rants. And literally it's like, look, regardless of how you feel these people or not, without them, there is no Warrior. Like, Ultimate Warrior got to the level he was at because Hogan put him over.
That's true.
That's the thing. If Hogan could have just said, you know what, I'm not jobbing to him. I'm not doing this or whatever, even though Vince is the boss and Vince ultimately can look at somebody and go, if you're doing this, you're doing it. And that was the thing about Vince. Like, there were people that had the ability to talk to Vince and plead a case and maybe change his mind. But if Vince looked them dead in the eye and said, you're doing this, it happened.
No.
Vince always had the final say. Regardless of whatever politicking Hogan did or the Clique did or whatever.
So you're saying Vince McMahon was like the Tony Khan of today, pretty much?
I don't know. I think Vince had more of an iron fist. Has more of an iron fist. I don't. Tony Khan doesn't strike me as a guy who rules with an iron fist. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know. He's got the Infinity Gauntlet in his office.
I'm just saying. I could be wrong. I'm not in the meetings, but
I am.
You are in the meetings. You're in the meetings.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Guess who just joined our table?
Who?
Jim Cornette.
You think so, huh?
I know so.
Okay. Well, anyway, so after all that craziness goes down, the shocking moment happens.
Hello, Desmond.
Next thing we know, it's 2014, and the wrestling world is shocked. Lord knows I was. The Warrior gets inducted into the Hall of Fame.
That was a surprise.
Did anybody expect that?
I did not. I didn't think that it would ever come to both sides because, like, watching the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, there was another one following, finding the Ultimate Warrior. There was like so many different ones. Like,
yeah.
So it was like so many different things, and then looking at his history, I didn't think that was ever going to come to fruition. I mean, I really didn't think so. And then they did this whole thing where they did a video game DLC with him. I think for that year or the following year for 2K.
Yeah.
So they had like a whole bunch of different things, a whole package out for him, and then obviously you got into the Hall of Fame. Jade the Snake, after all these years holding up all this pain, because like, you know, Ultimate Warrior fucked him up, man. He fucked up his life, his trajectory to where he's supposed to get at, supposedly. Vince McMahon's logic. So he stood out there, and I guess he goes like, I guess his father told him like, hey, if you really want to hurt somebody, take a roll of dimes or a roll of quarters. You know, go to the bank and get that roll of quarters and just deck someone out there. So Jason Snake's waiting, but obviously they had security detail on the Warrior, so no one could really reach him. And then Jake's looking, he's looking, and I guess the Warrior taps him in the back. He goes like, hey man, listen, I'm not sure what it means, but I gotta say it. I'm sorry, I know you had a certain thing, I apologize, I'm not the same person I was back then. And Jake's like, motherfucker!
It's hard to be mad at somebody when they come back to you like that.
I know. That happened to me once. I was in such a funk. But anyway, he makes amends with everyone else while he's there. He talks to Kevin Nash. He talks to a variety of people and everything. And of course, you know, because Kevin Nash was there to induct Scott Hall into the Hall of Fame. And Scott Hall went in that year. Jake Roberts went in that year. That was when DDP was there to induct Jake because he got him clean and sober and everything. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of big names going in that year. And then the Warrior highlights the whole thing. And I remember, like, there was a story where, like, when Warrior was there, Hogan's in the front row next to Steve Austin. And, you know, because they were telling Hogan, like, he was not allowed to go anywhere near the Ultimate Warrior the whole weekend. Because they wanted Warrior to have a good time and everything. And he knew there was tension between them. So Hogan wasn't allowed to talk to him. But then they're at the Superdome, or as he liked to call it, the Silverdome, and they were driving around in a golf cart because of how big the dome is.
Right.
So they're driving around just bored, and all of a sudden he saw the Warrior. So he pulls over and walks over to him, and Warrior puts his hands up like this because he doesn't want to fight. And Hogan's like, no. And he basically tells him, hey, he wanted to say, look, I love you. I'm proud of what you've done. I'm sorry for whatever part I had in us not being, friends anymore. He said, if we want to be friends again, we can be great. If you want to do business, it's even better. And they shake hands, and they made amends. And so Warrior was able to have that closure with everybody. And then even having the closure with Vince, because he saw Vince as a father figure.
All right.
And that was a big thing. Like Warrior felt betrayed when Vince took the belt off of him. Vince felt betrayed when Warrior made all those demands and everything. And that's the interesting thing about Vince. And it's in the wrestling business, too, that I always think is weird. You see so many people that are like, fuck Vince McMahon. I'm never going back there. He's a scumbag. Decade later, they're hugging each other like nothing ever happened.
Vince is, above all, he is a businessman.
Yes.
He's not always, he doesn't always do what's best for everybody, but he is willing to do business with somebody and make amends if the money is right.
Yeah. And
I mean, I could definitely say a certain Charles Montgomery Punk won't be in the Hall of Fame.
Dude,
Chick magnet.
I'm telling you right now,
I like Charles
when I
Montgomery.
heard Warrior went in, anything's possible.
That's
and
true.
Triple H played a role in making that happen. And I remember he was asked about that because he also got Bruno Sammartino in the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked Triple H which one was easier. And he said, if I had to be honest, it was Bruno. And he said, why? He said, I had no personal relationship with Bruno. Vince did. He said, with Warrior, I had my issues as well as everybody else. But they said, time heals all wounds. And I felt it was the right decision to put Warrior in the Hall of Fame. And so after he makes amends with everyone, then he comes out on Monday Night Raw the next night, cuts that epic promo, and people still remember the first line of that promo to this day. Every man's heart one day beats its final beat.
I know.
And then he goes, and with what that man did in his life, and gives this motivational thing, and it was a promo that you could actually understand what the fuck he was saying.
I was like, oh, he's not yelling at me. Cool.
Yeah, and they have that promo, and then 12 hours later, he has a heart attack and dies in the hotel parking lot.
I felt bummed about that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, shit.
Well, his heart beat the last beat.
It's like, does this motherfucker know he's gonna die? I was like, does the motherfucker know he was gonna die?
He knew something we didn't.
Yeah, because apparently his health had been. Everybody could tell he looked sickly during that weekend.
Oh yeah. He wasn't looking normal.
Yeah, and Sherry was said that she was sad the most for Jim's kids and the fans of her ex-husband. Because a lot of people were, obviously they got to go through that trauma.
True.
And then Jake ends the show by saying "Rest in peace," and I was like, Jake was like, that was amazing to hear him say that.
Yeah, 100%. Because if anybody had cause to have real issues with him, it was Jake.
Yeah. And that was just the hell of it, man. And again, I always thought it was crazy. I said before, I say it again, like the love, the hate, it went such an up and down with Warrior. And just so...
I just think he was like bipolar.
You think so?
I definitely think so. I had when I was living in Florida, I found out after a couple of years I was dating this girl in Florida, but the girl I was dating, her mom was a psychiatrist, and she told me that I had to get it out of her. It took me a long time to figure out what it was. I guess she was a psychiatrist of the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Go figure. She wouldn't give me any information. I tried to pry out of her, but that's like the confidentiality thing, whatever. I'm not giving you names, so, all you psychiatrists out there are safe. Don't worry. Yeah. But I mean, he's dead, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, what's the point of having a confidentiality? He's dead.
No, I get it though. But she told me, she's like, she dealt with that person. I'm like, okay. She told me. I was like, oh shit, no shit.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, that guy's nuts. I'm like, okay.
But yeah, Warrior had a hell of a career, man.
No, I thought he was awesome. I thought it was entertaining. Yeah, he got big for his britches. It sucks. It's like, I don't know. I think he was entertaining. He was fun. Every time you see his figure, you see his T-shirt, you can still see like that energy. You can look at an inanimate object like a wrestling buddy or a little wrestling figure or something with the Ultimate Warrior's face on it, and like for some reason it goes like you feel like that. It's like, okay, the energy's there, even in an inanimate object, it's still going to be there.
Yeah,
so.
and there's something about him, like about that, but whether it's him or Hogan or Savage or whoever back then, they all had this aura around them that like it's like you feel something when they're in that ring.
Yeah, it's
different. Whether it's the music, the hype, the way they deliver, the energy from the crowd, like you feel something when you're in those matches. And I'm gonna be honest, I miss that feeling sometimes when I'm watching wrestling.
I hear you.
Every now and then, there's a handful of guys, and it's a count on one hand list of guys that can make you feel that energy when they're in that ring.
Kenny Omega, man.
I was gonna say CM Punk, but okay. No, it's definitely not
Charles Montgomery, Punk.
Yes. Not. Yeah, Kenny Beta, don't do it for me. But
Kenny Omega,
Chick
put some respect.
Amen. But yeah,
Chicago made. Punk.
Chicago made. Damn right he is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude this week's episode of Darkside of the Ring. As always, I want to thank Desmond Dagenhart for joining me here, and of course Elvis Dolinski. And next week, ladies and gentlemen, this show is called Darkside of the Ring, but I can honestly say next week it's gonna get dark as fuck on this show. I don't know how we're gonna survive next week. It's gonna take a lot of energy, but we're gonna get through it. But it's of course In the Shadow of Grizzly Smith.
Oh, good luck on
It's
that
gonna
one.
be next week.
Good luck on that one. I won't be here for this.
That's gonna be me, Desmond, and the Broke Soulless Ginger, Zach Scott, for the Shadow of Grizzly Smith.
I'll take my head up for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Wish us the best of luck on that one. That's all I gotta say. But make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you don't miss another episode of Boochcast Reviews Darkside of the Ring, as well as all additional YouTube content that we're going to be bringing very soon. We're going to have skits. We're going to have fun. We do what we do. So make sure you guys are following us on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast. Links are down in the description box below.
Find him on Grindr.
Nice.
That's not going to be in the description box. You're going to have to look. You want me on Grindr? I'm going to make you work for it. You got to go Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. Links down in the description box. We also have anchor.fm/the Boochcast/support to support the podcast. All the links down in the description box. You guys know the spiel by now. I ain't got to share it. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Until then,
Pizza,
baby.